So this is a piece I wrote recently, in memory of Leelah Alcorn. And with my 2 year coming up on the 25th, I felt it was an appropriate check-in point, just kind of for me to reflect on how far I've come in the last 2 years. And this is only the second time I read it out loud. So, I don't know how to tell you how sorry I am for putting you through hell. I've heard a house is a place in which you live, and a home is where you find comfort, so where does that leave us? I did everything in my power to destroy the body we inhabited, watching with malicious pleasure as night after night you became less of a being inside of me until I could hardly feel a pulse. My selfish desire for the obliteration of everything that kept me bound to the sex I was assigned at birth blinded me from noticing myself reflected in your eyes. I denied any form of resemblance for years because I blamed you. I fucking hated you for everything. I despised you for the years of neglect, for trying to be something you weren't, for forcing us to suffer day in and day out because you couldn't find your voice. My hospital records indicate multiple battle wounds on my arms and legs, and a tendency to consider suicide a viable option to escape the demons I was too afraid to conquer alone. On quiet nights when I had no one but you for company, I tore apart the shreds of dignity you managed to conceal. There were nights where you begged me to stop, trying to persuade me with alternative options as if I could ever be happy in this body. The worst part about what felt like your death was that it didn't make things any less difficult. I would be a social pariah forever, wouldn't I? Now, I'm beginning to realize it wasn't entirely your fault. I struggle to protect the pieces you left behind. The ways I walk, talk, sit, and stand are held together with traces of you. Despite my determination to cover you in gasoline, light a match, and be done with it, I was no more of a cisgender male than I was at birth. And you know what? That's okay. Now that I'm older, I realize I'm one of the lucky ones. You and I, we are nothing but a product of our environment, taught to fear abnormalities and believe ourselves to be damaged if we don't meet the set standards. There will be days when I still feel the same bitter feelings of self-hatred and hostility, but all in all, I'm happier now than I've been in my entire life. To all the trans and queer people who are imprisoned, abused, sent to therapy, disowned, raped, and murdered for being themselves, this one's for you. With each passing day and with each minor repair, I'm learning to love every aspect of myself. From my femininity to my vagina, and with every surgery I choose or choose not to have, I'm fucking happy. Every part of me is alive and thriving. There were never two personalities, only one who tried his best to detach himself from what he was told made him less of a man, less of a human being. It took me 4 years of therapy to come to the conclusion that I was never broken. I will continue to unlearn the gender binary. I will continue to talk about my transition until you can read the roadmaps engraved into my hands leading me to this point from start to finish. In Leelah's suicide note, she begs for her death to be used as a catalyst for conversations about justice and humanity. She's only one person. There are hundreds of unrecognized trans people dead from the ignorance that tortures our very existence. I've forgiven myself for my past, but I'd never be able to forgive myself for ignoring my identity and the identities of those lost. If there's one thing every oppressor hates, it's resistance. So instead, I'll ensure that every aspect of the work I put forward from here on out brings me closer to my communities. And together, we'll continue to unlearn the gender binary, mourn for our siblings, and resist until our statistics are no longer described as staggering. And maybe one day reporters will talk less of our genitalia and birth names and speak of us as human beings, who are alive, thriving, and unafraid.